Windows Codename Longhorn build 4042 is a Milestone 7 alpha build compiled on the 9th of September 2003 of what was to become Windows Vista. This build is notable, especially in a visual sense, for a few reasons. It includes a new boot screen, it includes a new welcome screen design and therefore a new Windows security screen design. It includes a new visual style called Slate, which replaces the previous visual style known as Plex. And although it's almost universally agreed that this build is very probably the first Milestone 7 build, it does still feature the full working aero glass transparency from build 4039. So let's take a look. So here we are at the desktop of Longhorn build 4042, and before I start, I think I should mention that there are two known compiles called build 4042. There is this one, which is, as far as we are aware, a Milestone 7 build, and it has this build string 4042.lab06, and that part's very important. That means that this build was compiled by Lab 6 of developers. There is, however, another build called build 4042. That build string is slightly different. It's 4042.main, which means that that version of 4042 comes from the main build lab. These builds are different, even though they have the same numerical number, and it's very important not to confuse them. For example, the main compile is a Milestone 6 build. It looks a lot different. It still has the Plex theme, for example, so it's very, very important not to confuse those two different builds. Now, as I've said already, this build, 4042, the Lab 6 compile, is probably the first Milestone 7 build, so we're getting now towards the end of the alpha stage of development. It's a visual milestone in the Longhorn development process because, as you can see immediately, it's got a new visual style for the first time. So Plex was introduced at the beginning of development as a placeholder theme. We've now got a new theme called Slate, which is slightly different, and as you can see, instead of being washed out with blue, we're now washed out with grey, which personally I think is a lot easier on the eyes. It's quite nice. It's a nice change from having blue everywhere. So along with that, Milestone 7, we've got a new wallpaper, which is this one. As I've also said, this build does have full working aero glass transparency from Milestone 6. It's identical to the transparency you can get in build 4039. And actually, I should also mention that the reason I haven't shown you the setup process is because it's completely identical to that of build 4039. So, talked a lot about the new visual features in this build. A few other differences. One of them is that when you go to a pictures folder in this build, and I'll show you now, so let's go to my documents, my pictures, sample pictures. If you think back to build 4039, in the view menu we had an option known as 3D view that we could click on to activate, and that would give us, with a registry edit, the ability to use the carousel and panorama view modes. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, then I would encourage you to go back to the last video in the series and watch the video on build 4039, which explains all about carousel and panorama. However, in build 4042, the 3D view option is no longer available, and therefore carousel and panorama cannot be activated in this build. Another difference, and this one is very interesting, have a look at computer, music, games, for example. Compare them to My Contacts, My Documents, and you should notice that the My prefix has been dropped from some of these shell locations, as indeed would be the case in Windows Vista. So in XP, Computer was known as My Computer. From Vista onwards, it's known as simply Computer, and in Windows 8, it's known as This PC. So the My prefix has gone from some of these shell locations. Interestingly, some of the other ones, like My Documents, keep the prefix. And even more interestingly, in the Start menu, there's a My Documents link and a Documents link. Let's see if they go to the same place. Apparently not, so that's interesting. Incidentally, this My Notes folder, I'll talk about that a bit more later on. So, in this build, we see a lot of resurgence of features that were in build 4039, and in some cases at a more workable level. So for example, if I just run this command, whoops, I'll just run it and spell it correctly. So if you run this command in build 4042, you get yourself the burn to disk wizard, which if you remember in build 4039 is also present there. These wizards in build 4042 do look slightly different to in 4039 because we have a new visual style. So let's have a quick look at the burn to disk wizard. I did mention this in build 4039, but just in case you forgot, the ISO file association that you got in build 4039 is no longer present in this build, so it does not launch this wizard when you double click an ISO file. Let's just find some files to attack. Let's just try and drag one of these over. There you go. I may have to put a disk in fact, I'll try that now. So I've put a recordable disk in now, and as you can see it's now displaying correctly how much free space there is, and I can click next and I can go ahead and burn my disk. Okay, so when the disk is ready you'll get this screen and it ejects the disk for you, and that does work. So that's excellent. Now let's have a look at some of the other features in this build. So a few things. Firstly, and I'm going to at this point say thanks again to Melcher from Longhorn.ms, who's been very helpful in getting me to be able to explore some of the features of these builds. So I've got here basically some scripts that get you into some of the features of this build that you can't otherwise access out of the box. So there are a couple of wizards that I want to show you. Now the first one is this one, and this is known as the online photo wizard usually, and as you can see it's basically a wizard that will guide you through choosing pictures or photos that you've taken and you've put onto your computer, and it will guide you through being able to upload them to a photo printing service or photo printing company basically, and allow you to order prints of your photos online. Now this wizard is present in builds 4039, however in build 4039 it doesn't work, it just crashes. It's also present in this build 4042. You can also find it in builds 4051 and 4053. So let's have a look at this wizard. I've never seen this before, so let's have a quick run through. Okay, next. Right, I've got an error now, so I can't go any further. So let's have a look at settings. Does that work? No. Let's see what happens when you press help. Help doesn't work either, so you can't really get any further than this page. However, it is interesting to be able to see this, because as I said, out of the box you can't actually get to this. So again, thank you to Melcher for making that possible. Now another wizard is this one, and this is known as the photo video email wizard, and the function of this wizard is basically for you to be able to choose pictures on your computer, edit them, so for example change the orientation, I'm assuming, and that sort of thing, change the resolution, and then email them. So let's have a quick go. So for example I can drag these over here, so I want to email those 4 pictures there. Next. And then it'll say ready to attach items to an email, and you have to choose now what you want to do. So by default, because I've already looked at this, send by is set to Outlook Express, and if you click on it you can change. You've got 3 options: Outlook Express, MSN Explorer and Hotmail. You've also got a few other options here. So this one, remove my personal information before sending, so I'm assuming what that will do is it will wipe all the tags. If you're sending photos, because you can send videos as well using this wizard, you can choose to send a smaller copy of the photos, and it gives you some options for a resolution. Or you can choose to send the photos in their original size, and then you can specify that you always want to do it like this whenever you use the wizard. For videos, you have these options, so you can limit the video size to 500 kilobytes, 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes, or you can send it in the original size and you get the same option there. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work because when you press this, it just doesn't load Outlook Express. And likewise, if you go back in and choose something else, so for example, if I choose Hotmail, it will still try and load Outlook Express, and it still won't work. Now, Outlook Express is installed on here, but it's not communicating with this wizard. And actually, maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe Outlook Express indeed doesn't even work on this build. Looking at that. So, a few other things. Firstly, this is not a very interesting feature, but, well, it's not even a feature, but I wanted to show you anyway. So, if you turn hidden files and folders on in this build, on the desktop, you should notice that you get these two new icons, Search and Help and Support Center. Now, I don't know why they're hidden, but if you try and remove them, you actually find that they are static icons like the recycle bin. Now, I'm just wondering whether you can remove them from Customize Desktop. No, you can't. But as I said, you can't actually delete them. They're just static, and I don't know why they're hidden. I find that strange. They're hidden by default, but they're static icons. Right, now, again, think back to Build 4039, and I showed you this application called Floating Player, and it didn't work in 4039. It gave you an error on launch, but in Build 4042 you can actually launch the application. It still is not functional, but you can at least see the user interface. So here it is, and this is basically meant to be, as far as I'm aware, a media player replacement. So it's known as Longhorn Media Player, and I believe it was meant to replace Windows Media Player as a new media player program. So that's the user interface. As I said, nothing else actually works, but you can at least see it in this build, which is a step forward. Now, while I'm in the Windows folder, there is another interesting debut. There's this program called Sticky Note. If you double click it, nothing happens, and you might be led to believe that it's indeed broken. It's not broken. What you have to do is you have to create a new text document, and then if you drag the text document onto the Sticky Note application, you get yourself, a la Vista, except not in the sidebar, so a la Windows 7 actually, some sticky notes. There you go. So in terms of what you can do with this, and I'd encourage you to let me know in the comments if your experience or knowledge of this is different to mine. But I don't believe you can save the notes at this point. At least when I tried, I couldn't get them back again. But I can show you what I have been able to find out. So at the top here we've got clear this note, which just clears it like that. Now if I try clicking in there again, I can't actually do anything. You can switch to writing mode, which gives you like a pen. And if I switch back, I can actually type in it again now. So this is a message. You've got this option called show audio controls, and if you have an audio device attached, you can record a message and save it as part of your note. Then we have this tools menu, so you can copy everything in your note, you can paste into your note. So let's see whether that works. So copy, paste, yeah, so that works. Always on top, which works as well. And you can change the colour of your note. Interestingly, not the colour of the text for some reason. Now, if you have a look here, there is actually an options menu that's greyed out. There's also a send to mail recipient menu that's greyed out, and there's a help menu that's greyed out. So those features, I'm assuming, are just not available, not implemented at this time. But it would seem that they were meant to be. You can also resize the note like this. So it's a lot like sticky notes in Vista, except in Vista they were in the sidebar. Then with 7 they came out of the sidebar. So there you go. This is what the text file looks like once you've done that. So you can see it has actually saved my message there. However, last time I tried this, it didn't load it again when I dragged it back onto the sticky notes. So let's see what happens. Ah, I stand corrected, it has saved my notes. There you go, they are actually savable as well. That's excellent. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about, but unfortunately will not really be able to show you, is the following. Now I'm going to double click this called Vote Now, but really you won't notice any difference, but I will explain a little bit about what that application is. So this build, along with builds 4033, 4039, 4053, 4084 and 4093 all come with an application called Vote Now. As far as I'm aware, it's not launchable in the builds out of the box for various reasons. It would have been launchable by Microsoft developers that were using the builds, and thanks to Melcher using that script that I've just launched there, that exe file, you can actually get it to kind of pseudo work. It works up to a point. So basically it's an application that runs in the background of these builds, and I think it's like after 4 hours or so, after like a length of time, which is why I can't realistically show it to you now, you get a little notification down here, like a system tray notification, and it will say something to the effect of, you've been using this build for a few hours now, tell us what you think. And it essentially gives developers, or gave developers, an option to, like, basically like a YouTube video, you can either like or dislike it. So you can either vote the build up, saying yes I liked it, or yes it worked well, or you can vote it down. So that's basically what Vote Now does. Now I can show you some screenshots, again thanks to Melcher, longhorn.ms, so here you go. So that's the notification you get. And in terms of those features that have been appearing recently in the builds, as far as build 4042 goes, that's essentially it. So let's have a quick look at some of the other things. So we'll have a look at what themes are available. So here you go, you've still got all the XP themes and the classic theme. As I said, you've got Slate, which now replaces Plex, so you don't have any option for Plex anymore. Same screensaver as previously. New desktop wallpaper, as I said, the other ones are still the XP wallpapers. The sidebar, it does have actually quite a slim picking of tiles, so it's only got seemingly the most important ones that you can choose from. It's got a lot fewer than some of the other builds have. So there's the classic system tray that you can add there. You've still got all the positioning options. So if I press this, I can combine the sidebar with the taskbar, and the start button jumps up there. And incidentally, one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but I'm hoping that you've noticed, the start button in the Slate theme does not have the word start written on it. And indeed, when Vista went to RTM, we did have a start button that did not have the word start written on it. And I believe this is the first build where that is the case, so there is no longer the word start written on the start button. So those are the positioning options. You can minimize the sidebar like this, and you get your traditional taskbar clock down here. There you go. Task Manager, there it is. Let's have a quick look at the Windows security screen. Here it is. I'll just show you search. When I tried searching, it didn't actually work. It came up with this. Now I don't know whether that's because of my virtual machine setup or whether it's actually a problem with this build, but I couldn't actually get any sort of search to function at all. This is the Help and Support Center. Looks like the one in 439. As far as I'm aware, no difference there. It's still not complete. Very obviously not complete. Lastly, a quick look at Control Panel, if I can click on the right icon. So here's Control Panel. Switch to Classic View, that functions. You've got all your classic options. Nothing new there. You've got Sync Manager, which I am not familiar with, and I don't know whether that's specific to this build. I don't really know what that is about. Well, obviously it's about syncing. There is an option called New Task Scheduler, which looks like this. And again, I don't know what build this debuted in. I don't know whether it's this one. It might have been a few builds back, but I don't remember seeing it in those builds. Here you go, you can create a new task like that. And actually, one more thing that I'll show you while I remember, because I think this is quite nice. Just click that. So when you go to, if you have this option turned on, this one, hide protected operating system files, which is on by default, then what you get is you get this Windows 2000 style prompt and XP obviously style prompt when you get to a folder that's hidden or where the files are hidden. And it's not really that interesting, but I did think when I first saw it that it just makes Explorer look quite nice like that. It looks all kind of neat and condensed and quite nice, I think. I don't really know why I think that. It looks just quite clean. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. That's just the impression I got there. Obviously when you do that you get this big details pane, but you can make it a little bit smaller, but I just think it looks very, very nice like that. The clock image in the corner I'm not sure about. Slightly strange, but there you go. Longhorn clock. Speaking of clocks, here you go. That's what happens when you click on the tile. You've got this picture calendar like that, which is very nice. When you click on this clock you don't get one of those, unfortunately. So yeah, that's Longhorn build 4042. And one more thing that I just remembered, this must be the last thing now, I can't possibly have forgotten anything else. This build calls itself Longhorn Professional. So if you remember the last two builds, 2.9 and 3.9, called themselves the Pig Latin version, Longhorn Lay Professional Pay. But this one now goes back to a familiar string, shall we say. So yeah, that was Longhorn build 4042. If you enjoyed the video and you are not a subscriber yet, I would encourage you to do so. You can do that by clicking on the red subscribe button below the video. As I said previously, Longhorn videos are arriving approximately every 2 weeks. So the next one will be arriving in around about 2 weeks' time, and hopefully I will see you then.